Right, okay. It says we are live. So hello there. If you are here, if you can hear us loud and clear, tell us in the comments, say hello. Say, if you're watching, give us some love. Say where you are dialing from today. Would love to hear from you so I can give you a shout out. So who do we have? Let me know in the comments. Keep them coming and we will get started in a minute or two. I'm very privileged to have with me Neil today, who's going to tell us his story. Neil's a great accountant who only started trading probably just over a year ago and has had amazing success. And we're going to hear about Neil's story today. So if you're here, let us know. Fantastic. Thank you, Bob, for kicking things off. Hello, Bob from sunny Cornwall. Good to have you here. If you're a Facebook user, I don't know what your name is. If you haven't given Facebook authority to see your name, we won't be able to see who you are, but let me have a look if I can find it on my other device. But hello to you. Hello, Jason from Ringwood in Hampshire, not very far away from where I am. So hello to you. If you're just joining, let us know. Say hello in the comments. We would love to give you a shout out. Good piece to you, Dave. Very typical of Dave to join in with only an emoji. Good to have you here, Dave. Swift Accountancy, also in Kent. Hello, Clive from Ireland. Thank you. If you're on Facebook, just put your name in the comments as well, because if you haven't kind of given Facebook permission to show your name, then I won't be able to see it. Hello, Ross from High Wycombe. Good to have you here. Hanan, dialing in from somewhere, not sure where. Hello from North Bay on Air, Canada, rather. Okay, well, let's get started then. It's just gone 1 o'clock. So today's session, I am very pleased to have with me Neil Criddle. Neil's a great accountant from, where are you from, Neil? Where are you based?
Weston-super-Mare in the southwest of sunny England.
There we go. Weston-super-Mare in the southeast of England. And I came across Neil just over a year ago. We exchanged a few messages. He was just starting out in his firm. And we've just seen his rise just go from strength to strength in the past year. As you'll know from the title of this live, it's all about how Neil has gone from 0 to 100K in less than 12 months. So we're going to find out exactly how he has today. So as always, put your questions in the comments and I will put them to Neil so you can take some tangible takeaways from this session to learn from some of the strategies and the techniques that perhaps Neil has deployed in getting his practice to where it is today in such a short space of time. So without further ado, let's crack on. Neil, just start off with a very brief introduction about yourself, kind of before you started the practice and how you got to start in the practice, and we'll take it from there.
Cool, thank you. So I am 37 years old. I have a wife and 2 children, 2 cats and a puppy. I'm from Weston-super-Mare, which is just southwest of Bristol, about 20 minutes away from Bristol in the southwest of England. My kind of career up to the beginning of 2020 was solely in industry, so I've never worked in practice before. And I worked for predominantly large corporates, so I kind of worked within Everything Everywhere, formerly Orange, the phone company, Interserve, Lloyds Banking Group, Independent Vet Care, Kia Construction, so quite a few large businesses in there, predominantly within the commercial finance space. So I was a business partner. I was looking at budgets and forecasts. I was communicating with operational members of the business, predominantly non-finance people. Kind of worked my way up within the commercial finance space. I guess my golden role that I had was heading up the commercial finance function of Independent Vet Care, who, if you don't know who they are a unicorn now, but they were about £50 million turnover when I joined them in 2014. Mm-hmm. And they scaled up to £1 billion turnover by the time I left in 2019. And I headed up a team of about 11 or 12 people delivering commercial finance business partnering to the clinicians, so, veterinarians and practice managers.
Fantastic. That's great. Thank you for that introduction. So tell us about, why you then made the leap into practice and, how did it first start off? What were your first kind of few weeks like? What was your mindset like? More importantly, how you know, you're starting off from scratch. You've got a blank slate. What was going through your mind in terms of how you were going to set up this practice and where you were going to find clients from, and how you were going to kind of do the work that you perhaps hadn't been familiar with doing? Yeah, what was going through your mind at that point in time when you first started out?
I guess so around sort of 2018, early 2019 at the veterinary company, I was getting really frustrated with going to the veterinary practices, delivering what I thought was good quality commercial finance information, you know, showing how these practices, how they could improve on their performance, hearing what they were saying back to me in terms of some of the barriers to that, figuring an action plan, thinking of a good way forwards, and then coming back to head office and being met with a load of bureaucratic red tape. And my hands were kind of sort of tied behind my back, because I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what these people wanted. I just couldn't deliver it. So these were practices that were probably between 500k and £2 or £3 million turnover. So relatively small businesses. So at that point I thought, well, I've done this for a while. I think I like to think that I'm good at what I do. I like to think that I'm personable and I can get that message across to people. And at the same time, yeah, probably around that sort of same time, I had a lot of feedback from friends that were local to me, that had their own businesses, and they were struggling getting information from accountants and struggling to kind of understand the numbers within their business. So I kind of thought to myself that why don't I see if I can try and maybe develop a sideline, a bit of a kind of a hobby company, and try to maybe reach out to a few of my local friends and kind of people in the area to say, right, well, you know, I'm an accountant. This is what I can do. This is how I can help. I had a technical start to my career, so it's not like I didn't do anything in terms of technical finance. But at that point, I knew if I wanted to kind of make this into more of a side gig, then perhaps, you know, it kind of started out that I would definitely need a refresh on my technical skills. So around April 2019, I left the veterinary company to be an FC for a web company, a web development agency in Bristol. And it was a kind of a bread and butter FC role. So it had everything from VAT to payroll, tax, accounts, bookkeeping, and the whole kind of rigmarole. And that was good. It kind of really refreshed the technical aspect of kind of what I hadn't done for quite a while. And I guess towards the end of 2019, so I'd been in the role for about 6 or 7 months, and the majority of the work that they were doing were for government. And with Brexit happening, or not at the time, but in terms of the rumours and everything that was flying around Brexit, a lot of the government agencies were having their budgets either cut or frozen. And some of the projects, as a result, were being frozen or cut as well. And it was leading to serious cash flow shortages within the business. And they'd had an FC in there for probably like 10 years previous to when I came in, who essentially did the compliance work and wasn't an advisor to the business. So didn't look at anything commercial and nothing in the way of KPIs, etc. So I kind of tried to get that technical refresh of my skills, but try to impart on them a bit of sort of commerciality, which, to be frank, didn't go down too well. They were quite an ingrained management team, been around for about 15, 16 years. And it just wasn't the right fit sort of mentally for either party, really. So I could see at that point that the writing was potentially on the wall in terms of, you know, I'm hitting a barrier, I'm getting no further with this role. But I'd had the 6 months where I got that technical skill kind of refresh, upgrade. And I started around October, November time of 2019, getting a couple of small clients on board. They were predominantly kind of project-based clients. So I did a systems migration from one platform to another with one client. And I was just trying to think what the other one was. There was a bookkeeping tidy-up project for another one. And I'd already had my social media pages kind of in situ for probably about 6 months previous. So I'd already built a very, very small following. I probably had like 100 likes on my Facebook page, for example. Yeah, I kind of just, with the two things combined, I thought, right, well, let's stick it out in this job and let's see if I can continue to build up that small pipeline of clients, with a view to maybe kind of switching off the day job and doing the kind of the sideline full time. Now, the initial plan to do that was around 2021, so kind of this year. Things got worse in the day job. And I'll never forget, I was sat in a boardroom, I think it must have been around Christmas time. We had a break during the board meeting. And I text my wife saying, I've got to make this work. I've got to get out of here as quickly as I can. What I haven't said, that the management team were a husband and wife team. And it wasn't a surprise to see them arguing across each other during the board meeting. So it was a very, very difficult atmosphere for somebody as kind of entrepreneurial and flamboyant as myself to be kind of in that sort of almost schoolroom type atmosphere. And so I thought, well, let's maybe accelerate those plans and maybe bring that forward to summer 2020 and, see if we can make that switch at that point. But after Christmas, I lost my job. So 14th of January, never forget the date. 14th of January 2020 is when I went into the office, and half an hour later I was back home with a box between my hands. And I guess at that point it was a case of making a choice. I had about 2 months worth of cash to live off in the bank. My wife is a stay-at-home mum, so while she's very, very busy doing a job, she doesn't generate an income. So I kind of said, right, well, I either need to go out to the market and get a contractor role and try and maybe get something short-term to tide me over, or I built on the 4 or 5 clients that I'd had at Christmas 2019 and say, let's do this full time. Let's try and make it work for 2 months. If it doesn't work after 2 months, then I've got the experience in the CV to hopefully go out and maybe get another either permanent or contractor job. So that was kind of the kind of the journey into how I started, I guess.
Absolutely fantastic. So kind of a needs must situation, and it's make or break. And like you said, you were quite entrepreneurial, so you had that kind of conviction and that belief in yourself that you could make it work, but knowing that if it doesn't work after a couple of months, then you can always go into a safer permanent role. So talk me through that 2-month period. Then what did you actually do? Because you mentioned you had a few project jobs. So because when you're starting out, I know it's difficult to kind of get the kind of the meaty clients that you would want. But so how did you kind of position your offering? Did you go after project-based jobs in particular, or did you just go after kind of run-of-the-mill compliance jobs? Talk me through how and what you did in that first couple of months then.
Yeah, it was predominantly compliance. So I kind of tried to make myself a nuisance on the Facebook networking groups. So, local to me, Bristol and Western, there's quite a few networking groups, and, kind of once or twice a week, there's already somebody posting on there saying, I need an accountant or I need some help. So it was a case of me being proactive and kind of shouting about my social media pages. And at that point, I tried to produce some content organically and see if people were interested in what I had to say. But it was a case of getting, between January and March, towards the middle of March, I went from about 5 clients to, I don't know, about 13, 14. And these were clients that were predominantly compliance based, and they were paying me on a monthly fixed fee recurring basis. So I kind of, in my head, I knew where I needed to get up to by the end of March in terms of a recurring fee that would cover the mortgage, the bills, food and drink, etc. So I was kind of driven to get to that sort of figure by hook or by crook, really. And I probably did the classic things when people started out. I probably undersold myself for a couple of clients, and I probably did a couple of things pro bono just to kind of get my name out there. One thing that did help was in February I started my Facebook group. So that again was to kind of help increase my brand locally. I didn't really think anything else other than kind of the local area, because people just didn't know who I was, and it was all right me posting in the networking group saying this is who I am, this is how I can help. But kind of outside of those group frameworks, that there wasn't really any kind of other vehicle for me to get my name out there. Like, I mean, as most people know, that the reach and the engagement on business pages, certainly on Facebook, isn't great. So rather than chucking a load of money at ads and things that I didn't really know anything about, I thought, well, let's start up my own group. And I got a few hundred people quite quickly kind of joining that group. So that's kind of, I guess that's how I started, and that's how I kind of grew a little bit of traction. And it's just as well I did get to that point by the middle of March, because obviously everyone know what happened by the end of the month. And I'd hate to think what would have happened if I hadn't have got that traction. I mean, as it was, I was petrified I was going to lose everything that I'd built over those previous sort of 2 or 3 months. And then the Facebook group came in its own, because it was a great vehicle for me to give advice and support for pandemic kind of scenario onwards.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I know you've mentioned talking about your Facebook group before. So, for those that are listening, in terms of the power of Facebook groups, talk us through how you actually generated business from it. How did you generate inquiries? So you set up this group, you started to engage, you started to provide valuable content, and as and when people came on, tell us what happened.
Yeah, I think, I found that the engagement in the group was a lot better than just posting on my pages. So, I was kind of duplicating a little bit in terms of what I was doing, but I was finding that a lot of people were kind of jumping on board what I was saying. And, when sort of April, May came and all the different grants and schemes were being announced, it was really difficult to keep on top of everything. But I think that the fact that people could see that I was doing things to help other people, I think that resonated quite a lot. It resonated hugely with people that had accountants that weren't doing that. I know locally there's probably 6 or 7 firms that are relatively well known in my local area. One of them does a weekly blog post, which is a little bit robotic in terms of how it's put together. The others don't do anything in the way of social media. So there's no content at all. So for me to stand out locally, it wasn't that difficult. I started doing video content at that time, which it's never really been a comfort of mine to do video. But I started to do it, and it's quite addictive, to be honest. I mean, I kind of quite like, delivering content via video, as well as, blog posts and other bits of content that I have. So again, people could see me. They got value from what I was saying, but they could see my personality and they could see my sense of humor. And yeah, I guess in terms of the know, like, trust factor, by being really engaging and quite consistent in the group, I mean, it was never a way of generating more inquiries. It was just a way of giving people as much help as possible, making myself more visible to give more people help. The fact that I've now generated some inquiries from it is a great byproduct. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the video content that I've done, I've done live Q&A sessions with other business owners. I've done one-on-one interviews. I've done my own kind of lives when I've been out walking the dog and things. So it's not all strictly business related. There's a lot of personal kind of aspect to what I do as well. And I think, I think a lot of people can kind of really relate to that. And, that level of assistance is just what a lot of people haven't had recently. Yeah,
absolutely. No, you're right. In terms of, it being authentic and you're just adding so much value. I mean, I know the power of Facebook groups. And, if you're out there, if you're listening, if you're an accounting firm owner, what Neil said is exactly true, that there aren't, you may not, it may not appear that way perhaps when you're on LinkedIn or on Facebook. There are probably lots of accountants posting, but as a proportion of the total number of accountants out there, perhaps as a proportion of the number of accountants in your local area, it is a very minute minority. So this is, get creating your own Facebook group, as Neil did as a sole practitioner with no team, with no clients, has set up a Facebook group and has got it to, what is it now, nearly 1,000 members or something, Neil?
1,100, yeah.
1,100 members within a space of a year. So, if Neil can do it, so can you.
I think, sorry to interrupt, I think from my point of view, because I've never worked in practice before, I never really knew the kind of the stereotypical fundamentals of either owning or working in a practice. And I just thought that everyone used cloud tech. I thought that everybody was semi-decent with communicating because why wouldn't you be? With the technology nowadays, it's easy to send, a personalized email to all of your clients. So I guess kind of, thinking that I was in the majority and worrying about how I was going to generate business, and then kind of actually starting working, full time in the business, I realized that perhaps, I'm probably more in the minority. But I guess for me, it's my personality, and I'm just being myself. I don't consider the fact that me being communicative is out of the ordinary. That's just who I am. I guess things like the video content is probably over and above what I would have expected to have done before, kind of doing this business. But everything else is just kind of a combination of everything that I've learned over the last sort of 12, 13 years, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the first place to start. If people don't know you, then how can they come and do business with you? And in the digital age we live in, it's all about trying to get known, which is the first stage of actually getting a buyer to take notice of who you are, and then taking them on the journey to know, like, and trust you before they do work with you. And like you said, it's I've talked about this before in terms of now being a huge opportunity for us accountants to actually build our practices nationwide, not just locally. Like you said, you first started out, you thought you had to build a local presence, but now you've got a nationwide presence. You've got a Facebook group that isn't confined by any borders or geography. Anybody can join it. You can service clients anywhere in the UK because we're using cloud tech and all the rest of it. And the same can be said for any other accountant who, if you know your target audience and you are present online, then you can really hone in on your target audience from wherever you are and build up a client base which is nationwide, because clients don't care where you are. They only care that you can solve their problems and help them with achieving their goals and objectives. So tell us, Neil, what did you do in those first stages? Because I know you've been on a journey with your pricing and actually working on the business. You found out quite early on, or you made that decision, whether it was by chance or whether it was deliberate, that you're going to invest in yourself. Because I know you've been on the mentoring program as well, so you've clearly invested in yourself to want to learn about how to actually run an accounting firm. Most people know how to do the technical side, but no one's ever taught them actually how to run an accounting business. But you, I know, made that decision very early on. So talk us through, what you did and what you learned and how that has helped you to kind of, grow your practice as it has done.
Yeah, I mean, I guess kind of when I was starting to kind of sow the seed of the business back in the middle of 2019 is when I found Mark Wickersham. And yeah, I kind of jumped on board a couple of his videos, and going back to not having any practice experience, the whole kind of charging by the hour value pricing kind of conversations I've never really been privy to. So for me, kind of that 6 months up until Christmas was really interesting. And after Christmas, when I lost my job and realized I was going to give this a go full time, I enrolled in Mark's Academy. And, kind of thinking back now, the monthly price of his academy was probably over half in terms of the recurring fees that I was generating at that time. So it was a huge investment. And to be frank, a bit of a gamble, because, I knew that Mark's content was brilliant. And Reza, that's how I met you. And obviously, kind of the two of you, the content was fantastic. Resources were really, really good. But kind of for me, my priority was to get clients through the door and to earn some money, and, kind of how to get there as quickly as possible, but to kind of envelop all of those techniques and resources into what I was doing. So, it was kind of a whirlwind first kind of 2 or 3 months on the academy and on the program. But I think, it's really helped. I mean, I guess in terms of a marketing point of view, working in commercial finance, I've always had good, decent working relationships with the marketing and IT team. So I've kind of always had a bit of an idea with regards to how to market myself, albeit, I've never done it before. And yeah, I guess for me, the most important thing I wanted to really hone in on was the pricing side of things. Because I didn't know what was a decent price. I knew how I wanted to price in terms of Mark's teachings, but I didn't know what was the correct way to go about pricing for specific tasks that I was doing. So it took a while. Like I said before, I definitely undersold myself to a few early clients, but as the first kind of few months went by, You know, I remember January tax season, I managed to onboard a few clients and I was charging probably like £150, I think was the highest that I was charging for a self-assessment return. And then perhaps, you know, 3 or 4 months later, I was charging 495 as an average. So what I was finding out was that people were prepared to pay more. You know, obviously my brand had increased from January to March, April at that point, but not significantly enough to, you know, kind of triple or quadruple my price. So, and a lot of these people were new people that were coming in via the networking groups that hadn't had an appreciation of my Facebook group or kind of, you know, weren't local. So it sort of twigged that people were prepared to pay for my service at a higher price than what I was charging. I wasn't delivering any greater value. I think I was just communicating it better in terms of what I could do for them. And it went from self-assessments to my retainer-based clients. So, you know, people that wanted kind of cyclical recurring compliance work. And, you know, as soon as I've managed to onboard clients that want my services for compliance, it doesn't take a lot of time at all for them to understand that I am a commercial business partner. I get business, I get operational stuff. So for me to then help them with management reporting, with forecasting, with KPIs, I could then upsell very, very quickly with a kind of a value pricing sort of mentality to further kind of generate sort of greater fees from them. So yeah, I mean, you know, I'm still learning. I'm still a baby in this game. It's been 14, 15 months ish. And, you know, I'm constantly surprising myself by the sorts of fees that I'm attracting and the sorts of, you know, people that are coming to me. And I say to them, you know, where have you seen me? Yeah, who's spoken about me? And it's from a myriad of different places. But from day one, I've just kind of done the same thing, and it's just kind of sort of escalated as we've gone along. You know, I'm still in Mark's Academy, and you know, I can't see myself ever leaving, even though some of the content is repeated year on year. I'm always finding new ways to develop myself, and you know, I've invested myself in terms of technology as well. So, you know, whether it's like, I know Dave's watching, I just bought my my Stream Deck. So,
Nice.
so I'll be playing with that soon, and you know, investing in a CRM, and you know, I use Practice Ignition now for the last sort of 6 months or so. So kind of each step that I've taken along in the business is to help better serve my clients and give me more time to do that. So yeah, I'm waffling a bit, but you can kind of get to see sort of incrementally how I've tried to sort of go on this journey.
No, that's great. So what I'd like to hone in on is, because a lot of people, you know, when they're first starting out, or perhaps when they're, you know, around that that kind of 50 to 100,000 mark in terms of recurring fees, they struggle to actually find the right type of client that they want to work with in terms of, you know, being able to provide those added value services, the services that you are well qualified to do because that's the background that you came from, you know, the services, the advisory stuff, the FD type stuff, the management reporting. So tell me about, you know, how did you come across these kind of clients? Because you haven't actually niched in a particular area, have you? So how did you find these clients come to you? Was anything deliberate that you did? Do you think it's related to the content that you put out that you've managed to find? You know, I'm presuming there are businesses of a reasonable enough size to warrant, you know, taking these additional kind of advisory services from you. So what do you think led you to be able to find these clients that are prepared to pay for the advisory offering that you have to give?
I've taken on a lot of startups and a lot of new business. As you can probably imagine, during the pandemic, you know, people have lost their jobs and people have kind of set up, you know, with ventures and different sidelines. So I've had the benefit there of people not understanding what an accountant can bring. And so, you know, I've kind of, the world has been my oyster in terms of understanding what I can deliver to them and what I think that they need. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess I'll go back to the video content. You know, that's really, really helped to sort of hone my personality and attract the right sort of client. You know, I never make it a mistake to say, you know, if you're looking for the cheapest service, you're probably not going to get that with me, because I pride myself on the value that I can bring, and certainly, having done Mark's program over the last year, 18 months, and I definitely know that there are other people that can do compliance type jobs cheaper than me locally. But I also say, if you like the look of me and if you like the sound of what I can do, and you think we can work well together, then let's have a chat and we can see what works. I will say to people, would you recommend your accountant as being the cheapest one or the best one? And whilst I wouldn't say that I was the best one, I'm certainly not the cheapest. So I like to think that people can refer onwards and kind of really speak volumes about how I deliver help to all of my clients. So yeah, I haven't done any corporate networking. Well, not a lot of people have, but I've done no networking. I don't pay for any ads or any social media advertisements or anything. No SEO, Google, my website's crap. But what I've just tried to do is just to try and push all my content via the group, via my pages, do a bit of video here and there, and just kind of pretty much just sit and just wait for people to contact me. And that's what's happened. And obviously, as I've got a higher client base, my propensity for referrals and word of mouth increases. I'm not solely reliant on that, but it's becoming more apparent that the more clients I have, the more referrals I get. So even the Facebook group, in terms of the engagement that I put in there, it's not hours and hours and hours of work a week. It's the odd post here and there, it's the odd comment, it's the odd bit of appreciation, or the odd kind of olive branch to say this is what I can do to help. The work that I've done with B1G1 in terms of the charity stuff that I do, all of this kind of stuff is just totally different to what, and I come back to, my local kind of competitors are doing. And again, there's not a massive time investment. There's certainly not a monetary investment for what I'm doing. And people just seem to be gravitating towards it, which, is amazing.
Fantastic. Yeah, you make it sound so easy. You just sit back and the work just comes in, like you said. But when you do things right, that's what happens. When you get inbound marketing, when you get content marketing right, which is exactly what you're doing. You're putting out valuable educational content in the right places where your ideal clients are hanging out. Inevitably, that's what's going to happen. You're getting known, you're providing this value, and people will reciprocate in terms of, you will be the go-to person when they'd have a need, when they have a problem. You have been present, you've been providing all this value. They're going to come to you to see whether they can work with you, whether you can help them overcome.
I wouldn't say that I've done nothing. As a bit facetious on my part. I've got so many ideas for content that I want to do, and I've got a massive list of other things that I've just not touched. So I've marketed myself in a way that I want to be seen, and that's taken a lot of hard work and effort. As with most people, I've not had any holiday in the last 18 months. I've pretty much just solely been working on the business, and it's been tough. It's been relatively long hours, and I've got 2 kids and a family to kind of help support. But if I'd have had to have paid for ads or paid for other professionals to come in, I think that's where I would probably start to think in my mind if this was the right thing to do.
Absolutely. So what does the next 12 months hold for Neil Criddle Consultancy? Where do you see yourself now? We're learning what you have learned over the last 12 months, got to practice to where it is today. What are your plans for the next 12 months, and how do you envisage getting there?
I think the next probably hurdle for me is potentially some help, whether that be in the form of an apprentice or maybe somebody from the Kickstarter scheme that's currently ongoing within the UK at the moment. So I think I've become too involved. I've become a bit like a perfectionist, and there are things that I could perhaps step away or step back from, and let other people do to then hopefully increase my value in the more advisory side of the business that I know and love. So that's probably the next step for me. I'm at a stage now where I'm just under 100 clients. Probably around 55, 60 of those are what I would class as retainer-based clients that pay me on a fixed fee monthly basis. And yeah, like I said before, I'm busy. Capacity is kind of shortening. But but I guess, I've been a manager for a long time in industry, and I know kind of the pitfalls and kind of the difficulties with being a manager. I say I want somebody to help me so that it will relieve my time to concentrate on other things. Doesn't always work out that way. And a kind of, Reza, in terms of your ROE strategy, that's something that I tried to implement in my previous couple of roles when I was a manager, and it worked really well. So I guess, onboarding somebody and giving them the flexibility and the creativity to kind of hopefully, do work in a similar sort of style to me would be my next step.
Fantastic. We'll look forward to see how that unfolds. Brilliant. Well, that's been great, Neil. We've got a few questions coming in, so let's start answering those before we finish off. A very important question coming in from Ashley. How long did it take you to build a Millennium Falcon?
About a year. No,
about a year. Wow.
I started it. I started it last year, and then we got a puppy in November. So it's been on the back burner for a while. It's been sat in the garage, and then I had a couple of hours spare with the bank holiday weekend, and my son helped me build the last little bit. So it was a while. It was
Fantastic. So about the same time as it took you to get practice from 0 to 100 with Millennium Falcon. Excellent. There's a question from Jason. Brilliant. If you could start again, would you do anything differently?
Would I do anything differently? That's a really good question. I don't know really, because I like to think that I've been successful and I've enjoyed what I've done. If I'd have done anything differently, it might have tarnished both of those areas. So, probably. It's been difficult, obviously, with the pandemic, and I've not been able to network as much as I perhaps would want to. But then corporate networking doesn't really suit me and my personality. I just kind of get frustrated and bored of being pitched at. So I guess, I guess in terms of networking, maybe more online stuff. Earlier on, I was kind of in a bit of a bubble for those first sort of 2 months. But I can't really think of anything else, to be honest. It's a great question.
Cool. Okay. Any tips to someone wanting to start their own Facebook group? I think that's from Craig.
So the first thing is do it. The second thing is don't do it and forget about it. For the first sort of month or two, I was just inviting all of my friends and family and tried to get some organic buzz just by kind of, sending out a load of invites. But very quickly, I knew that I had to kind of, carry on with being consistent and engaging. So, producing, regular, interesting content, whether it be video, whether it be blog posts, constantly drop your link into other networking groups. So again, like I said, I was trying to improve my brand, saying to people what I could do. Oh, by the way, there's a Facebook group here if you want to join. Pin it on things like email newsletters, kind of just peppering it everywhere you can, would be my advice.
Fantastic. Some good advice there. Hope those tips help. Craig. LinkedIn users asking, how do you manage 1,000 clients on your own? I think Neil said 100, didn't you?
I'm not sure. I think I've had 1,000 clients. I think I have a nervous breakdown. I've got 1,100 people in my Facebook group. That's might be where that's come from.
So that's right. It's probably a little bit confusion there. What Carly is asking, what sort of forecasting KPI software do you use?
I've just started using Sift, thanks to your recommendation, Reza. So I've been using it for probably about a month. Only just scratched the surface of what it can do. But yeah, I'm using it as like an audit tool as well to check. I'm predominantly Xero based, so to check my client Xero accounts for kind of financial health and kind of audit health. And yeah, just producing management reporting packs and sort of benchmarking analysis within there. Yeah, so Sift Analytics is called. Yeah, really good.
Yeah, Sift is good. Check it out. Sorry, that was from Andrew, that question. This next question is from Carly. What practice management software do you use?
I use Center. So again, kind of coming from this with a pair of cold eyes, didn't really know what was out there. Had a couple of recommendations, had a trial, and I just really liked how bespoke it was in terms of the workflows. You can literally just create whatever you want. The next stage for that is to integrate it with Practice Ignition on my proposals. But yeah, Center, really good.
Fantastic. Thank you. In hindsight, do you think you would have started your own business if you not lost your job? Question from Zahir.
It was the path that I was going on. It's what I wanted to do. I think getting the kick at the backside kind of showed me that I pretty much had to do it. Would I have still done it? Yeah, I think I would have done. It got to Christmas 2019, and I'll never forget that first invoice. It was a few £100 for a project piece that I did, and I realised that people were prepared to pay me for doing a job outside of my day job. And then I thought, right, well, okay, well, if somebody's willing to do that, if I can get some more clients, that there is no ceiling potentially to what I could earn, and that excited me because I was offering help to people. And that there was a kind of there was a goal that I couldn't see far in the distance, and that I've always been quite sort of proactive in my day job, and I've always, like I said, worked with marketing and IT, and I've always tried to broaden and stretch out my role to encompass lots of different things. But when I saw that happen, I thought, well, there's no scope there. There's no broadening. It's literally limitless, and that really excited me.
Fantastic. Well, that's been great. We're coming to the end of the questions now. So thank you so much, Neil, for today. Your story is inspiring. I know it's inspired many people that have been watching and asking questions. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free. If you're watching this on replay, I'm sure Neil will be more than happy to answer your questions. If you put them in the Facebook group, Neil is in there, and tag him, then he will be happy to answer. Otherwise, hope you found some value in that and taken away some tangible takeaways for how to potentially grow your firm, how to win new clients, how to have the right mindset when you are first starting out to build and grow your firm. Thank you once again, Neil. We'll continue this conversation, I'm sure, and I'm looking forward to seeing how your journey develops over the course of the next 12 months. Thank you for watching. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you. Cheers.